Yeah, what's up everyone? Welcome back to another tutorial. So we're going to extend off the quest system, and we need to do a few things before we get to the crafting system. Number one being we've got to make a inventory system here. So inventory systems are pretty simple. You just have a table like the quest, and you store everything inside that. So here we just have, our inventory table. We're just going to add that easy peasy there. And in here, you can change how the inventory is structured. So for this tutorial, we'll just be putting strings in there, and they'll represent an item. So like, we can have it as like so like you put in a string inside this inventory table, and that string is an ID for an item. Then we'll have another table for all the items, where we can like change the display information and all of that. So to begin this, we're just going to go to modules. We're going to add another module script. We're going to add items. We're going to return a table. And inside this table, we're going to have a bunch of other tables like we've done for the quest. Actually, this is pretty much what we're going to be doing anyway, so we can just copy and paste that. We'll change this to items. We'll get rid of the one we don't want. We want get item from ID. Item ID, module.items, item data, return item data, item ID, and we're done. Oh, we're not done yet, but here what we'll do is add a apple here. And I might just do the item name itself. So each item name must be unique, and that will be the ID there. In here we can just get rid of all of that. We'll have the display, apple, a fruit that is delicious. So we can keep the same structure again with the description title. And yeah, that's pretty much all we need for the item here. What we're going to do also is in this collectible system, we're going to make it so it adds the item to the inventory. So here we can do local player profile equals, we need data service for this, so let's require that. Equals require script of parent.data service. We're going to do data service get profile local player. We don't want yielding, so it'll be false, so we don't actually need it. If not, if player profile, then we're going to do table.insert player profile.data.inventory, the item name, so object.name. And then if we try play the game now, we'll see that actually I think this was the other issue. Line 77, we have a look. So in the other tutorial, I didn't actually fix this issue. But on this line 77 here, you might get this error if your data is not loaded yet. It will error because there is no active data. It's returned nil. So what you want to do is add before the HTTP service JSON encode, but after the equal sign, active data and HTTP service JSON encode active data. So that's saying if there is active data, JSON encode it, otherwise return nil. But that's hidden, so it's just nil. And then saying if new data is not equal to old JSON data, set it. And then update the data there. Or do the update function. So now we have a look. Well, I already had some stuff here, but I just clicked that. It will add apple, and it will add a pair on the end. Now that we've got that, that's one way of doing it. However, I want to change this system so that it will do it by dictionary rather than an array. So how that would work is there's two ways you can do it. You can do tables within the inventory, and then you have to loop through the inventory and get each one. Or you can just have the item name as the index. So if I just jump over here, we can do like apple equals 5, and that means 5 apples. That's the way I'm going to do it. So how we will do this is, I want to go to this onPost profile loaded, or profile load. So this is like way to do that login times and printing. we need to loop through the inventory and check if there's any non-dictionary values. So how this will work is we can do for I. Actually, we don't even need the index. We need the string in ipairs profile dot data dot inventory do. So ipairs only does array values. So if there's any dictionary values, it will not be counted. So that's really nice. We can do profile data inventory string. So let's say we've got our apple. We've got like 3 different apples. Just a string, not the actual dictionary we're doing here. We're gonna say that apple inside the inventory. So we'll make that the index and we'll have the value. So the value will be the amount. So we're saying here, set this apple index to the current value plus 1 or 1. So that's saying if there is a value already there, add 1 to it and make it equal to it. Otherwise, just set it to 1. And then we can leave it like that. That will only work for the dictionary way though, because of our ipairs. Now if we actually go back and try load our data. Oh, I think something broke. Okay. Something is breaking on my end. What the fuck? Oh yeah. Let's have a look at that again. So, perform arithmetic, add on nil and number. Oh yeah. So I need to actually, if it's already existent, then set it to the existent one plus 1 or 1. So if you can't really visualize it properly, that's pretty much what we're doing there. Actually, that kind of looks nice, so I'll keep it that way. So saying if it's there, add 1, and then we'll also want to remove it from the table. Remove profile data inventory I, and that happens either way, so we can just get that there. Yeah, so if there's an existent value, add it by 1. Otherwise, if there's no value yet, set it to 1. So now if we try play. So apple, pear. Oh wait, I didn't fix it. Whoops. Here what we're going to do is... Actually, I'm going to print it just to check if it's actually working properly. And also, in the collectibles, we're going to change it here too. So we're going to copy that. And we're going to paste that there. And just change object.name in there. Like that. There we go. Now, if you have any quests that give items as rewards, you'll need to change them too. So, because now it's a mixed, that's what's causing it to break. So what I'm going to do is, I think it might be easier if I just reset my data. And then play it again. Let me move it back one more. So I was doing other testing, so I've kind of filled up some profiles. So inventory is empty if I click that. We've got Apple 1 now. So JSON encode doesn't actually support mixed tables, which means dictionary and array. So now that we've properly fixed it, it's working fine. And we can still do these. So now that's working, we can actually set up the crafting system to check for that. So, right now I'm not going to worry about the crafting system because I'm going to do a inventory UI. Now, inventory UIs can be a little bit tricky to do, but it's not too bad. So here I'm going to make another frame. We'll call this inventory frame. It is visible. Let me just, so I can see it. Inventory frame. I'll put that on the left side. I'll make it square. Let me have a look at the template inventory. Let me put that one inside there. Oh yeah, I need to fix that. Top left. Now I can like spread these out a little bit. 0.5, 0.5. Let's get a padding in there. 5 pixel from the sides. In the actual frames too, let's just clear it up. So I don't want the bar back. Maybe right now we'll have the title. Let's make that like 0.9. 0.5 anchor point, and then we can do 0.5 position. So that's how you center it. You can do 0.5 for position, 0.5 for anchor point on the X, and that means it'll be dead middle. And then you can just change the size so it fits within the max. So let's move it down a little bit. So that is item name. Then what we'll also do is have a viewport frame. So we'll set up viewports for this. We'll just chuck in a viewport so you can learn how to use them. Nice and easy. They're not too bad for those that haven't used them before, so don't worry. We're just going to center this viewport first. So anchor point to 0.5, 0.5, position to 0.5, 0.5, and then size to whatever. So now it's actually square. So let me just expand this so you can see. So it's perfectly square and it's in the middle. And then what we can do is move the position up and down. So now that's sort of like where I want it, except I want the size reduced. So you can hold shift and scale it, or you can just drag the scale down. And yeah, I reckon that's pretty good. So we'll do this by script, but basically when you add a camera and we add the actual model inside this viewport, then we can set up the camera and we can set up the viewport by just positioning them. So now that we've got that, let's go to the handler. I'm going to make a separate script for this one. So we'll call this quests. We'll call this debug. And we'll call this inventory. So if we just open up quests, what I'm going to do is move this label into debug. Make an update function. Local active data equals nil. Local HTTP service equals game get service HTTP service. And then we can do local interface equals script.parent. You should really not do this. I would make a module to have this, but you don't really want to have this copy and pasted everywhere. We only need the remotes for the get data remote, and we want to do update. And there we go. So that's pretty much the base for it. So that's debug there. I won't need this anymore. So do quest updated. So it's pretty much similar to this, how we've got the local ID here. we table.insert the quest ID, and then we can just check if the ID, like these are quests that are missing, so if you don't have a quest inside the quest ID cache, so any of your active quests, it will just destroy the frame. That's the same for the inventory, we'll do the same way. We don't need that tween. Actually, what was that tween used for? Oh, the bar. Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah, so actually we can almost copy and paste this full thing. Which I won't, no. So if we go inventory, we pretty much just want this. And then we also want the items module. So local replicated modules, replicate storage, wait for child modules, local items items matrix equals require replicated modules, wait for child items, and then we want to do if not active data, then return local inventory UID cache. I should just do inventory ID cache. So we're going to store every inventory item that is like we loop through. So we'll loop through the data next. So for item ID quantity in pairs. So it's pairs since it's a dictionary for your inventory. Active data.inventory. And then we're going to make sure we do the table.insert inventory ID cache, the item ID. And then we can do for_frame in ipairs interface dot inventory frame, get children do. If frame is a frame and not table.find inventory ID cache frame.name. So we'll name all the frames the item it's related to. So that way this works properly. And then this is saying if there is no active inventory item for that specific frame, destroy the frame. And that's pretty much how it works. Destroy any old frames. Any inventory items that are removed. So now that we've got that, we can do the actual frames. So we can do local inventory frame equals interface.inventory frame. Find first child the item ID. If not inventory frame, then create new frame. And then here, so this is an inventory frame we'll use. I also do want to add a quantity to it. So let me do that. So I'm just going to move the position to 0.9. Nope, way too high. 0.85. 0.7. We'll do times 1. Let's make it on the right side. And I'll put it right against the bounds. Actually, I won't put it against the bounds. And we'll call this quantity. So obviously, in here, you probably have your, you could probably have a description if you don't like a proper inventory frame, but for the moment, I'm only doing this title here, so I don't want the inventory, I don't want the description there. That's up to you though. However, what I want to do is inventory frame.quantity.text equals x dot quantity. Now, the reason why you want it on the outside of this, if not, and then create new frame, is because if the frame is already created, it won't update the quantity if that's inside there. So it's going to be on the outside so it updates. However, here we can do inventory frame equals script.template inventory clone. Template inventory clone. Script.template. Hey, that's not working around. Okay, something's up with that, but script.template inventory clone dot name equals the item ID, so important that you do that way. Otherwise the frame will just be removed automatically. We want also make sure background transparency is. Actually, I'll keep it as that. We're going to do .layout order. We'll do quantity. So the higher the quantity, the more it's in the order. So the higher quantity items will be at the front. This can change though depending on what you do. You can do like alphabet or anything like that. And then what we also want is the title. We only want to set the title once. So we'll set this to the item ID. Actually, no, we want something else for this. So we can do local inventory frame, and we also want local item config. Now, how do we get this item config? We need the items matrix, get item from ID. If not item config, then continue. And then what we can do here is item config. Whoops. Actually, what we can do is we can do a for loop for this. So we can do for prop val in pairs. So for property prop value in pairs item config dot display dot title do, and we can directly set the property to the value. And then you can do the same for the description if you want. And what we're going to do now is have a model here. So this will be Apple mesh. So I just need to take a copy of this. Let me make a assets folder. I'm going to put one apple in there. Name it Apple mesh. I'm going to take a pear mesh. Drop it in there. You can have this like automated if you want. That's up to you. But yeah, so we'll have model equals Apple mesh. We can have model cframe, cframe.new, camera c. Actually, we'll do viewport equals model equals cframe.new, camera equals cframe.new. Now for the camera, we want it offsetted so we can actually look at the model. Onto it 400, and then pointing back at the origin. So cframe.new, you give it a position, and then you can give it a look at. So this is saying look at this position from this origin position. So that's how the camera's going to be facing. Make sure it's a C-frame. I also have the model there. And then we can set up all this in here. So now that we've set all the properties and everything, make sure we set the parent last equals interface.inventory frame. We need to set up the model. So the model is local mesh part. Actually, we'll do local model object equals replicated storage.assets. Let's make that a variable. Local replicated assets equals replicated storage with child assets. Model. So replicate assets, find first child, the item config dot model, and then we want to do if model then model equals model clone, model dot parent equals inventory frame dot viewport. So that's a viewport inside the frame here, and we also need to set up the camera for the viewport. So local viewport camera equals instance.new camera viewport camera dot cframe equals the item config dot viewport dot camera. Also, we need to set the model cframe. So if model object is a model, then else. If model object is a base part, then else print. Actually, we'll do warn. Unsupported instance or model. We want the model object dot name, model object dot class name. Actually, it's going to be joined together. Like that. So if it's a model, we want to set the primary part C-frame to the item config.viewport.cframe, or model, I mean. So that's a model C-frame. Otherwise, if it's a base part, we set the C-frame directly to the same thing. Otherwise, it's just like an unsupported object and we won't worry about it. And then we set the parent. We set the viewport camera. Now with the viewports, you have to set the camera to like the actual camera object itself. So we want to do inventory frame.viewport.current camera equals viewport camera. That's in the properties here. So current camera is a camera. And then that's actually pretty much it. So you have to play around with the positioning a little bit in config here. However, that should work now. So if I try join, let me double check everything looks good. Let's try play it. It should display items I have in my inventory now. Let's have a look. I don't think I parented the frame back. Oh, I put in the wrong one, that's why. There we go. Template inventory. There we go, what, 6 apples. Now there's no pears. And I'm assuming that's because we actually haven't set up a config for that item yet. So let's do that for the pear. We'll do pear mesh and we'll keep it the same. Oh, and pear. So actually we can color this now. So if we do like sort of red there, dim it down a little bit. And then here it's like a yellowish green, a little bit darker. So that's pear. And we can do that for the quests too. So we just jump over to the quests. We can do like red there. We'll keep that white. And then we can do the same like greenish yellow there. For that one. And then if we click play. Wait for the data, and there we go. So these are quite far out, so how do we zoom it in? We need to reduce the offset. So that's this 4 here. So that's 4 studs away from the origin, and then we'll look back towards the origin. So let's do like maybe 2.5. We'll see how that goes. So that's pretty much twice the zoom, or 1.5 times the zoom. There we go. So that's still pretty small. And also the colors are working now, which is great. So actually I could probably bring this to like 1. Because I think these meshes are really small. Let's have a look. Yeah, they're only 1, yeah. Actually, that might be too big now. What is like 1.5? So mesh parts do take a second to load. Oh no, there we are. So yeah. So that's how they look. You can have them spin on the spot. You just keep rotating the C-frame. There's a couple ways of doing that. So what I like to do though is local spinning parts equals a table. Actually, I'll put that one underneath. So local spinning parts or spinning objects. And then I want a table to insert that model object. And then you have a run service loop. Actually, I might do, no, I'll just keep it like that, yeah. And then you have a run service dot render steps connect function, or you can have a heartbeat. Up to you. I'll do a heartbeat. For I object in ipairs, spinning objects do. We want to do this same statement here, except we don't want to warn because that will spam it. And we can do object instead. We want to do object set primary part C-frame, so this is for models. We want to get the primary part C-frame and times it by rotation. Like a rotation C-frame equals C-frame dot angles. We'll just do like 1 radian, which is like a unit for a circle. Object.cframe. You can actually do times equals for this one. The rotation C-frame. Now, I actually no, I believe it's on the Y we want to do. So radians or C-frame angle works in a little bit different way. Basically, most objects use the Y to like spin it around in a circle. So like following this green one here, so that's usually Y. Actually, if I have a look at the so orientation, you can see it changing in the top bottom right down here. It's along the Y. But if we join a game and try this now, you can see that they spin like that. Also, if you want like a top-down, you can just keep changing the thing here. So let's do like 1. I will actually push this out a little bit more. We can get a better view. And then what we can do is let's reduce that so it's a bit slower. So the higher that is, the faster it will be. And then there's not much else I do really want to add here. Let's try to play that again. So just so you know, even if the item is not displayed here, because there's no config for it, you can still use it for like crafting and all that. It just means that there's no config for the item, and you just need to add it for it to be displayed locally. But if we add these now, you can see the counters going up. So we put the quantity label on the outside of where we create the new frame. So it's updating every loop. And if we try them, you can see the apple collector and pear collector names now are colored. So we change that. And yeah. Boom. So that's the inventory system. Hopefully you learned a little bit. Obviously, viewports might be something that you haven't learnt yet, and that's something brand new for you. Hope that helped. Spreading these out actually really nice because you can pick out each one and have a look at them. But yeah, you can see they're pretty similar. Just a side note, you can probably actually put this inside a module script, and then that way you can have it here. And then if you got like any other menus that use viewports with like models, you can set it up so it actually automates this process, and you're not like copy and pasting this over and over. And then you could probably actually just have this whole entire thing here automated, so by one function or something like that. So yeah, you can play around with it, see how it goes. I probably will record the crafting one later. So we have another module in here for crafting. Maybe another thing there. For those that do want to remove items from their inventory, so if you add a like remote event or something like that, you want to set this index to nil. So that's how you get rid of the item. Do not set it to false. That will keep the item there. You want to set it to nil. So that's how you get rid of the item. Actually, while we're here, let's just quickly add it. So, how I'll do this is, let me add that in there. Let me make a image button. I'm going to call this button. You can call it like remove or something. Size is 0.3.3. So usually this would be in the top left. Let me do like 0.15, 0.15. Actually, yeah, I'll put in the bottom right, just so I don't have to move any other labels. So how you can actually do this, to like get it in the perfect spot, you can do 1 minus 0.15, so that's the size. And then you can do 0.15 there. Where's anchor point half? I'm sure I did that right. Oh, you can just set that to 0 because it's not anchor point. There we go. So that's perfectly in the corner now. And if I remove this pixel, you can see it's perfectly aligned. And then we can just get like an X button or something like that. So let's go images, X. Remove. X letter. I want a white one so that way you can actually recolor it. Okay, so since we can't find one, I'll show you another trick. You can make a label here and call that like remove. Actually, we've already got a remove button. I just realized. We can just get this one and copy and paste it. There we go. So we've got that now. We can change this to clear. And then we'll do inventory. So when we create the frame, we want to set up the event once. That's important. We want to do inventory frame dot clear dot activated connect function. So that's where we want to set up a remote event. And I just realized a potential issue we've got. So when we add this to spinning objects, inside this loop, we don't check if the object is destroyed. So what we're going to do is if not object dot parent, then table remove spinning objects object, and you can break. So that's saying just end this loop, wait till the next one to update everything, so we don't completely crash the game. And then up here we want a remote event, so let's create one. We'll do remote remove remove item. So this is remove item remote, remove item, and we want to fire server the item ID. So now that we've got that, let's go on the server side. For this one, I'm probably gonna put it inside collectible service. I'll put in data service actually. So here what we'll do is on server event. I won't worry about the variable just yet. Connect function. We get the local player and item ID. Let's set up the remote event. So usually you don't want to mix it actually with your data script. So I'm taking this back now and putting collectible service. Let's put at here. So item remove remote. That's inside there. So remotes folder. And then we want replicated storage. There we go. So on server event, we're given the local player and item ID. We want to do local profile equals data service, get profile from player, local player, we don't want to yield for it. If profile then. So we're going to do if profile and type of item ID is equal to string. So that's saying we're doing a sanity check. That's what this is called. So we're checking if the value that the player gave us is an actual particular type. And since it's going to be a type of string, we know it's going to be a correct index for an inventory item. Or like a potential index. So here we can do if profile dot data dot inventory item ID, then we want to set that to null. Now usually you can probably just set it to that and it'll work the same. Up to you. Actually no, yeah, that's probably a better idea doing it just like that. Because they can't actually add anything to the inventory, they can only remove potentially something from the inventory. So now if I just click on that, it's going to get rid of all my pairs. So now we've got another error here, line 90. Let's have a look. Line 90. So, oh whoops, I was supposed to put I there. So index, not the actual object. So now we've got apples there. Let's just click some pears. No, I don't like my apples. Let me get rid of them. But yeah, there we go. So it's working. Now, we're ready for our crafting system, which we can put more items in here from these two. Or craft more items from these two particular items. So, I'll see you in the next tutorial for that. This is setting up the inventory and all that. Let me take a screenshot so I can actually use this for a thumbnail. But yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed, hopefully you've learned a lot, and thank you for watching.